What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor Podcast coming at you. This week's guest is none other than Frank Beasley. He's the head coach at George Mason University. One of the things that I took away from this podcast was some of the red flags that he looks for in a recruit before he even gets them onto campus, and how that kind of changes the way he thinks about his recruiting process with this particular athlete. We get into some of the details of finance in terms of fundraising for a program, and the big thing that should be on everyone's mind in 2025 is endowing a program indefinitely. All that on the podcast coming up next. Don't move, man. Stay there. Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at wrestlingmindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat. Athletor Podcast coming at you. Coach Frank Beasley, how are you, sir?
Life is good. Excited to be out
it
here
is.
today.
Yeah, life is good. And when we get to goof around with our buddies and talk wrestling all day, it gets even better, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Can't beat it.
Yeah, yeah. So give us a general state of affairs at GMU.
Yeah, things are going great. We've been building little by little, year over year, and it's coming along. We got 5 returning national qualifiers on our team this year. Um, I think we got a good thing going. The guys are excited. It's been a great summer of training. Uh, Getting started back up with the start of preseason, here in a couple days. So right back at it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a really good year. Like I said, we got 5 returning national qualifiers. We only graduated 1 starter last year, and he hadn't placed in our conference tournament. So, everybody's back, and this will be a good year. We got to keep everybody healthy and moving forward. But, the guys are just genuinely excited about what's ahead and the progress we've been making.
Yes. So progress is a great word. What you're doing is not easy. What you're doing is not. What was the most difficult part of first of all, coming from a larger institution like NC State, state funded school, you're talking about a different scenario where you're at. What was the biggest adjustment? We use the word adjustment, but what was the biggest hiccup, pain in the ass, hurdle that you had to deal with when you got the job at GMU?
Yeah, well, I will say George Mason's huge. It's 41,000 students.
Fair
We're
enough.
public. Uh, but uh, but yeah, I mean, it's not a Power 4 school. It's a
Yeah.
mid-major school, and just kind of different operations, different budget, that kind of thing. I've been fortunate to be at some schools that were kind of similarly funded and stuff like that in the past, so I kind of was prepared for it, I think. But progress never happens as fast as you want it to be. I think that's probably the one thing that I was maybe naive to initially. Probably our biggest
Mhm.
challenge is the scholarship funding situation that's our biggest struggle. We've been at about 3.5, but we plan to beat those teams with 9.9 and now more.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the biggest struggle. To answer your question, it was probably that piece, is being creative, to make things work, and then being able to take care of guys once they do well.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? Like it's just one more thing that you got to fundraise for because you got to take care of the kids that are making the national tournament and all American. What does fundraising in 2025, 26 look like? What like is it are we just I just don't know like how many times. I know the donor base out there is great in Virginia and Delco area. It's great. But how many times can we keep on going back to the same well?
Yeah, you got to constantly be adding new people to the mix and getting more people involved and sharing your vision. If you can share your vision and get people bought into what we're doing, then good things are gonna happen. We've been fortunate to be able to build our base and fundraise pretty well. and be able to do what we need to do. But, it's kind of an ever evolving, kind of changing landscape with fundraising. So now it's, I joke that I serve a lot of masters in fundraising, right? Like there's a certain amount I need to fundraise to be able to have operations here, kind of keep my head above water, right? There's a certain amount with the club that I need to fundraise. There's a certain amount with, various things within the club. Now you're looking at NIL scholarships, things like that. They're on top of that, in addition to that. But, to me, the greatest thing is the endowments. We've been working hard to build our endowments because there's no better mark I could leave on a program than doing something where this program's gonna be here long after I'm dead because we were intentional about the way we were fundraising to build our endowment. Obviously I want to win right now, but no greater impact I could have than to build our endowment so that 100, 200 years from now this program's thriving.
Bees, I got to tell you, that word keeps on coming up in these smaller programs. And when I say smaller programs, please don't be insulted. But like I'm including Lehigh, who is not a small. I'm including Lehigh in this list because it is a smaller school and it has a long history. But every time I talk to Santoro, he talks about endowment. Is that going to have to be the direction that all of these, and when I say all of these schools, I mean everyone except for Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, maybe Ohio State. Okay.
Mhm.
Is that the direction if we really want to save at least 80 programs? Is that the direction that we have to go? Do we, and if so, what does that number look like? Because it's not, because it costs $2 million a year just to run an NCAA Division I wrestling program. So what does that number even look like?
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at athletorlive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
The number's really big. They tell me I figure 4% off our endowment. So whatever, if it's 2 million, might be a little high for us, but
Well, but
what it's generating
but you guys
4%.
don't maybe don't travel. Okay, fine. But like on average, like I was shocked to know that OU is spending $2 million a year. Shocked. But so is that the direction that we have to go though?
Well, I think it's the safest way, right? There's nothing foolproof. I think, as a head coach, it's our job to show value to our administration with our program to show them that people care about us. So it isn't just one big donor that's really cares and does not give a lot of money. That's important. You need those
Sure,
people.
that would be nice. Those are nice.
Love those people, but you also need to have three, four, 500 people that are donating to you every year to show that it's not just one person that cares. It's there's a ton of people out there that care, and so that's kind of been our approach with fundraising is that we need to hit both sides. We got to have hundreds of people that are giving money to our program, showing that they care about us. I think and we've had some success in fundraising, and I think there's been times where our wrestling programs raised a quarter of what the schools raised in number of donors a year or an amount raised, stuff like that. And with a school of 41,000 students, that says something. People take
Sure.
note and they know that wrestling matters here. From an administrative standpoint, I think that's been huge, more so than the dollar figure we raise, because the
Mhm.
dollar figure is really important, but it's really
Sure.
important to say, well, we had 553 people donate last year or whatever. Like we have people that care, and I think that's really, really important. But yeah, I mean, the endowment is, it takes a long time and it's a long-term build, but there's no better way to ensure a future than to establish those endowments. We're the first program to have a head coaching endowment here, which was pretty cool. We've been working on our scholarship endowments and all those kind of things, but we got a long way to go. We're far from where we need to be, but that's a work in progress.
And people, I don't know that the general wrestling public understands just how important building an endowment can be. Now you are not only not a strain on the administration's budget, you're pretty much self-sufficient. Is that pretty much correct?
That's where we want to be, is where we are totally self-sufficient, where you need nothing from the university. That's the goal, at some point is to get there. We're not there yet, but we're working
Right.
towards it.
Yeah, and you want to talk about like give them a reason to keep you around? Well, if soccer costs us X amount of dollars, but wrestling's pretty much self-sufficient,
If we're
seems like a
self-sufficient and we've got hundreds of more people giving to us than, another sport, I think that goes a long way, right?
yeah,
And when we're, competing to have the best GPA every year and on the mat, we're competing at the highest level on the mat, within our department, that kind of thing. I think all those things play into it. It's no longer where you can just win or you can just do, raise money or just, you gotta be able to do it all, to show value in this day and age. I mean, it's crazy right now with all the stuff going on. Nobody's immune to it. Everybody's seeing it. You're seeing all kinds of stuff out there. But the dust hasn't settled, right? Like we don't know what's ahead.
oh, we
The
don't know. No,
question
it's
is
changing every
what's
week.
happening in the next 3 years. It's not what's happening this week, this year. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, these things go into place, the house settlement, all these things, NIL. What's 3 years or 5 years look like? Now that's the real question to me. It's not, next year. I think it's that 3, 5 year mark where we're going to see a lot of changes in the sport.
Okay, I know you don't know. It's but put on your prognosticator hat. How do you see this shaking out? How do you see the dust settling?
I don't think it's good.
What is, like I'm talking about like the house settlement and everything, like everything like that, all the NIL stuff.
I don't think it's good for us. Obviously, if athletes can get paid, it's great for them and whatnot. But let's take a step back from where we are right now. 15 years ago, people stopped raising money in the endowments. They started doing all the RTCs. Maybe that's 20 years ago. I don't know. Timeline's
Yeah,
funny,
sure, sure,
but
sure, sure.
but by and large, wrestling coaches stopped raising money to their departments. Right? They did it through clubs, through RTCs. And then now we got the movement with the NIL, and that's the big movement now, right? Not a lot of
Mhm.
people, I think, are putting money into their school, and that's where it's like you got to show value. And so I think it's scary for me, looking at the national landscape of, I'm hoping that these other coaches are putting money back in their school and showing their value, because it's an easy sport to get rid of. We found out over the last 50 years. That's the scary part. And the more things we can do to show value to our administration is what's that administration care about, and what's that keep us here for the long haul. So I don't
Yeah,
think it's gonna be good. I think it's bad. I think everybody should be a little bit worried about it, and at all
sure.
levels, Division One, right? From Power
Yeah.
Four to mid majors to whatever. I think everybody has to be concerned because at some point there's only so much money, and you know who's most valuable to their athletic department is what's going to matter.
Mm. Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with you.
But
In
I
fact,
think we've
I don't
had decades of history of not fundraising for our departments, which I think's been an oversight by most wrestling coaches. And I think there's plenty of coaches out there that do a good job with that and show their value. I think
sure.
that's important. But I think that's been a huge oversight overall from a lot of coaches.
Yeah, because they're all talking about, well, how can I get this next kid paid? You're
Yeah.
missing, you're missing the
Well,
boat
15
here.
years ago, it's like, well, I got to get this workout partner. And now they're like, I don't need that workout partner. I got to pay this kid, right? Like
Yeah.
there's always going to be something that we have a better reason to spend money on, but there's nothing better to spend money on than to ensure the future of our program.
Man, that is wise words, Frank. Wise words. Okay. So let's say you're meeting with a donor. How do you go about translating your vision for George Mason? And has that vision changed since you got the job?
Yeah, I think the vision's largely the same. I think, if I would have had that conversation year one, I would have been talking about winning, winning, winning. Where now I'm talking about the changing kids' lives, for the better. I had two kids on my team that were homeless and, literally came from nothing and coming to George Mason changed their life. and will change their family's life for the rest of their life. It's an incredible opportunity. But I think, with any, donor meeting or whatnot, it's what do they care about? What do they need? It's like sales, right? You know, if you want me to sell something, I'm not just somebody, I'll sell you anything, right? Yeah, I got to know what you care about, what you want to buy, what you need, and then I can kind of formulate the way I'm going to sell it to you. But I think that's a little bit of the donor piece here is, how we can change kids' lives, and some people really care about winning, right? Like that's,
Sure.
but most of our alumni, they want to see, other things happen too. Yeah, they want us to win for sure, but they want to see kids' lives change. They want to see, a kid go from here to now he has a better life because he came here. They want to see, certain things, and I think it's figuring out what matters to them. Some people really care about brick and mortar and want their name recognized, but then some of the best owners out there, they don't want their name on anything, right? They just want to
Nice.
help and support the cause, right? Like everybody's a little bit different what they need. So I think it changes with who I'm talking to. I think everybody has it's a little bit different flavor for each person. At the end of the day,
Sure. And
it's them.
how do you go about finding what they need? You just talk to them? Because I know like we talk to Cole a lot, we talk to Dresser, and like Cole will have 4 meetings with somebody before he even asks them for a dollar.
Yeah, it's all relationship building. It's just like recruiting. We're selling ourselves in recruiting. We're selling ourselves in fundraising, but it's all relationship building. The better relationship we have with somebody, the more likely they are going to be to get involved. That's one of the biggest mistakes. I actually just presented at the NWCA convention about fundraising, and I did a little thing on like one of my biggest mistakes was just like, well, I meet these people and I ask them for money. It's like, now I'm like, well, that comes a lot later. Like, let's get them invested in our program. Let's get them to matches. Let's get them to our events. Let's get them to know our kids. And then, at some point down the road, uh, that will pay off. It's a longer
Sure.
term build. It's that longer term vision of fundraising that, it's not going to be immediate results. Nothing good comes overnight, and you're not going to get like some crazy donation, from somebody overnight. It's through building a relationship with them and getting them invested into the program.
Getting them out to matches is a big deal, huh? So how do you, it's not, you're in a wrestling rich area. You are. Okay. There is wrestling out there, especially in proximity to you. But I don't know how many people go to high school wrestling matches out there. I don't know. And I don't know how many people go to college wrestling matches. How do you get people to matches? Like that to me, you talked about being less of a strain on the administration in terms of finances, right? That's being autonomous is great, but you kind of have to have an army behind you. And if you have 1,000 people at your events, the administration looks at that and goes,
Yeah.
boy, if we cut this program, people are going to be pissed, right? Like there's 1,000 people that show up every week to watch this team wrestle. They're going to be pissed. So how do you go about getting butts in the seats?
Yeah. Well, I think the first step was we had to start getting a good product. We had to start having some level of success. And
Sure.
then I think that was step one. And then it's, how do we build our events? How do we combine socials with our events? How do we combine alumni nights or kids days or, doing something with the youth community? How do you combine things and package things? It's not realistic that our alumni are going to come back 10 times a year. But can we highlight a couple events and get them back for them? And with matches, it's not always our alumni that are kind of filling the stands, right? Because they're spread out. They're not all right here. It's more about the local community. How do we get them engaged and involved, and how do we want them to? How do we get them committed to being here, right? And I think the biggest thing we've done is getting our kids involved in the community. Is the more that they're out in the community, and we adopt schools and we do all these things, and it's like people get to know them. They're awesome people, right? And they're like, well, I want to go watch Malachi wrestle. He's incredible. I love him. I love Logan. I want to go watch him, right? And I think that grassroots approach has been a key for us. That the more our kids are involved, that's our biggest sell. Is people want to come support them individually and as a team.
Well, when you say that, you say adopt a school. What does that mean? I don't like. Do
So
you
we
literally?
Yeah, as a team, we go out to like a middle school and we'll do activities with them, read to them, stuff like that. But we go in, every so often, every couple weeks, we'll have a couple athletes go out there and spend time and kind of mentor some kids. There's a lot of structure behind it because obviously working in a school setting, you got to do all the background checks and all that kind of stuff. So the hard part's the legwork on the front side of getting everything established and set up. But then after that, it's great because it's really not that big a drain to send two or three or four or five guys for an hour to school once a week. I mean, if we're operating 30 kids, right? Like
Mhm.
an assistant or myself will go with a handful of kids and it's a week here, it's an hour here or there every couple of weeks. Like it's not a big drain. But what it does is it builds that community behind us. And I think that's been awesome.
Do you think that that has an impact on the wrestling? Like, so my thought is this, right? If they're going out to these middle schools and mentoring these kids, not only are these kids going to want to come and watch them wrestle, they're going to do what they do. They're going
Yeah.
to want to do what they do. So it's got to be impacting at a certain degree the amount of participation in the area as well. No?
Yeah, and at these middle schools and elementary schools, it's not school sanctioned wrestling, right? It's like clubs. And so,
Sure.
uh, and so we always kind of start each year with a wrestling demonstration. So
Okay.
they're exposed to it 'cause most of them have never seen it. They don't know what it is, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's cool." And some of these kids start wrestling, and it's like, well, now you're making a direct impact in these kids' lives because now they're doing something because you're doing it, or they're following the kids on our team, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I was a kid, there was like we would we would set up a mat at the county fair. Like literally, because I grew up in central Jersey, which at the time really wasn't the most wrestling based of the sport or of the state. Like, yeah, you had a bunch of guys down south and a bunch of guys up north, like up by Blairstown that wrestled. But like, I think there's a big miss in a lot of these programs. They there's those are easy wins. Those are easy wins. Like you said, it's an hour a week or an hour every couple weeks. What does it really cost you to go out and show wrestling to people? And a part of me, a part of me goes, well, are you really making any kind of an impact? And I think you can. I think you really can make an impact that way. You can go out and do clinics for free for your local high school, your local club. And that kind of stuff goes a long way. And it seems like you guys are doing a bunch of that.
Yeah, we're pretty involved. I mean, it's important for us, and that's again, it's impact, right? Like if our kids are in a community and impacting the next generation, like what better impact can we have? What better legacy can we leave? Like, yeah, we want to win a national title, right? But that's not going to leave as much of an impact as we do by affecting the community. We want to do both, but we can leave a real impact here. We see ourselves as
Yeah.
Northern Virginia's team. That's what we want to be, right? Like, um, and the more impact we can make, the better.
Yeah. And so now let's talk about the winning side of things, right? Because you do got to put a product on the mat too, right? With three scholarships, and how do you got to be real selective with your athletes that you recruit. You have to be, and you can't miss. Like that's the big thing to me is like you can't miss,
Well, the thing
right?
is,
Like
when we miss, we fill it for 3 or 4 years, right? Like because of all
yeah,
the time and energy we invest. Like it's not okay. Well, we're just gonna get somebody the next year. It's like you're recruiting these kids as juniors, and we got
yeah,
6 kids committed for 2026 right now. We're really excited. That's gonna be an incredible class for us. But if we miss on one of those kids, 26, 27, 28, 29, 4 years, that's when we're hurting, right? Like that's a big impact. So when we make a kid, any kind of offer, it might be a small offer, that it's a
sure,
meaningful offer to us. Like it matters. Like those kids got to make it, and we're relying on them, counting on them. And the reality is that several of the kids that are in our lineup, some of our best kids walked on, right? Like I want to say we had like 6 kids in our lineup last year that had walked on, and earn money. And
sure,
it's I think that's the thing that we've done a really good job with, I'm really proud of over the years here is our development is taking these kids that didn't get offered visits from any other Division I schools or didn't get, not saying they were bad, they were just overlooked.
No,
It's like we do
sure.
more homework on the front side. We spend more time trying to find those diamonds in the roughs, those kids that, maybe didn't have the state tournament they wanted, but like we're like, and they're pretty dang good, right? And
Mhm.
I think we've done a good job identifying some of those guys. We certainly had our misses. I've had some
Sure.
misses. Don't get me wrong, and like I said, the problem with the misses is that it affects us for years, because you tie up money and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's so important to try to identify the kids that fit into our culture and our system. We're very structured. We go I'm very particular in the way I do some things, and I'm very upfront with kids on that. And if they're not a good fit, they're not gonna make it here. And sometimes it's like, man, I like this kid. I think he's really good, but he's not a good fit. And when I realize that, like I said, I've had some misses, but I try to be conscientious of that on the front side, um, because
So
it's a
right. So you don't miss. Right. No, I get that completely. But what is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say with the red flags, when you start seeing some red flags, like it's so easy as a coach, and we all do it. Like I can change this kid, I can save him. Like he just needs a little bit of structure. He needs a little bit of this. Like I'll put extra time into him. And it's like, man, that almost never works out. I mean, every now and again it does, but it's like, man, they already have the red flags. There's already something a little bit off. There's already something where they're not fitting our culture. Why am I that
Yeah.
changing? Why didn't their last coach change them? Because maybe they weren't changeable. I don't know. But yeah, it's like, yeah, we try to be a little bit more conscientious and try to get the right kids. Everybody
Yeah.
get the right kids. It's just, how do you do it? And I think we're just so upfront with our expectations that we kind of punch kids in the face with our expectations of like, this is what we do, this is how we're gonna do it. You're either gonna like this or not. If you don't, no hard feelings. Best of luck to you.
Mhm.
And some kids are like that. They're like, yeah, coach, really respect it, but that's not for me. And I have the utmost respect for those kids. But we're
Sure.
very upfront about what we do, how we do it. And I think, the other thing is that our guys do a really good job. The guys on a team telling us like, this kid's a great fit. Like he fit in with us. Like he's great. Or like, yeah, I don't know how good a fit he's gonna be. And I don't usually ask too many follow-up questions because if they're telling me that, it's again, it's like I'm trying to overlook something because I think the kid's really good, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Square peg, round hole. Yeah. No, get it.
But
You can bang
sometimes
it
you
in if
jam it
you
really
really want
hard.
to.
It fits for a second.
You can. I mean, it's been done, but is it worth? Is the juice worth this? It's a lot like dating a stripper, right, Joel? I got him. Okay. So here's the here's the interesting thing to me. How do you find those diamonds in the rough? What are you looking for when you say, "Oh, I think we got"? I look. This kid did not have the good tournament in Fargo. He kind of he messed up. He goofed up in his state tournament. But what do you see in a kid that makes you go after him more so than anyone else?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is not over analyzing one tournament, right? Kids have a body of work. Some of these kids are wrestling hundreds of matches a year, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, and everybody's gonna have their ups and downs, right? Like some people don't perform at Fargo or Super 32 or whatever, but are they performing the other times? And do they love to wrestle? Are they constantly looking to compete and train? And some kids really like to compete, but they don't like training so much. And some kids, you know, uh,
Practice from heroes. The
maybe
opposite end of
don't
the
have the
spectrum.
means to compete that much, but are
Sure.
training gym rats. And they love those kids, right? It's like, well,
Yeah.
maybe they just don't have the opportunity to get out and compete as much. And so I think it's getting to know the kids and knowing what they're about and if they love to train and if they love to compete and if they really, really love the sport because what we do is incredibly hard. I mean, any Division I, any college team is incredibly hard to do what they do. And then I think when you add in the expectations we have for our kids here, it's it's pretty stringent, and it's like you gotta really love it, and you gotta be about it if you want to come here.
Yeah. Are we pricing people out of our sport at a youth and high school level?
Yeah, probably. I definitely think there's some of that going on.
Yeah. Like we ran Joel can bring up the spreadsheet. Like we talk about it all the time. Just to go, you guys might be a separate entity because you're on the East Coast and you're Southeast, but just to go to Super 32, just to go, right? Like you didn't place, like we're talking about registration fee, flight, hotel, got to pay for a coach, right? You're
Hmm.
talking about upwards of $2,500.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
that's one tournament.
Yeah.
That's one
And
tournament.
when I was going through, we couldn't afford that, right? Like
Right.
I got one Fargo in because of the price.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I did a lot of
So,
got a lot of local stuff, and I competed everywhere. I competed as much as I could, but it was like, all right, well, I'll get up at 2 in the morning and I'll drive 5 hours to Chicago to go to a tournament because I
sure.
can't afford to stay the night, right? Like, and I
Right.
try to find kids like that are like, they try to find a way, but it's hard. It's hard. Vegas and Super 32 and Fargo. And I mean, there's so many good tournaments that we look at everything, again,
Right.
not relying on one tournament because sometimes kids get it together to go to this one big tournament and then they're just shell shocked because it was such a
Mm.
heavy load on some of these parents of like, well, we just paid all this money for you to go to Fargo and we flew you out there. We did. And it's like there's so much pressure on some of these kids to go out and perform at that point. It's like, it's almost unfair to
Yeah. And we haven't even started talking about the clubs. Like,
them.
I mean, like we charge $350 a month in Poway. 350. Like it's getting to the point where we're pricing people out of this sport. Now, is it good that people are paying it? Yes, of course, but that's regional, right? Like I don't know that you're not going to get as big as wrestling is in the state of Oklahoma. You're not getting somebody to pay 350 a month. I just don't see it, right?
Mhm.
That said, though, it's still costs something to wrestle all year round, right? And most of these high school, these governing bodies have some type of regulations on when the high school coaches can see their athletes.
Yeah.
And so there's a dead period. So where are they going to train? If they want to be successful in the sport, I mean, it's gotten to the point now where if you're not wrestling 11 months out of the year, it's really hard to compete
Yeah.
at a high level. I know that there are some freaks of nature. Who's the kid from Illinois that just committed to University of Illinois? It was on a U17 world team. I can't think of his name for the life of me. Aaron Stewart. So, like, yeah, he plays football, but he's a freak of nature, right? These kids are all training 11 months out of the year.
And some of
Some's
them
got,
play in multiple sports, but they're still
yeah,
training
yeah, but they're
like you
still
were
training.
saying, right? Like, and we look for that, right?
Yeah,
It's like those kids
yeah,
are like, I play three sports, but I don't touch mat outside. It's like, well, either you're gonna get really good pretty quick because you're doing it year round, or you're gonna be
yeah,
like, holy crap, this is so much wrestling, right? Like,
yeah.
and I think that's
Well,
the
that's
question.
tricky too, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's the question because there are kids that are just training during wrestling season, and you go, "Oh my God, if I taught this kid a leg lace, he's out of this world, right? Like if this kid ever learned how to gut, he's out of this world." Those are harder to find now, I think. But that said, though, if this trend continues, are we going to see more pay to play type of stuff going on in high schools?
I mean, it seems like it, right? Like that seems to be the way that we're moving towards, which I don't
Yeah.
like. Wrestling is a lower socioeconomic sport. It's anybody can wrestle
Traditionally, it has been.
and
Yes, I agree.
any, but I think we lose that a little bit, which is disappointing. Because you want to give kids opportunities. There's no greater sport for upward mobility than wrestling. To be able to go and get a college degree, and it's that's one of the beautiful things about wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that anybody can do it, right? Whether you're 125 pounds or you're 225 pounds, you can still have success in this sport. And I think you're right. I think the price point at which, I mean, I know I'm dropping $15,000 a year easily on wrestling. for sure, right? I mean, you just saw the spreadsheet that was up on the screen. I think that's a low ball estimate too. I think we saw like the $9,000, Joel. Is that what it says? Something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere around $9,000 a year just to go to events. You're not even talking about clubs and privates and strength training and nutrition and like
But
it's a lot of money for sure. But yeah, we might be pricing people out of this sport a little bit faster than I would like as well. And again, this is coming from, and I was part of the problem, right? Don't get me wrong. Like I was part of the, I mean, I was a club coach, right? I literally was one at back in, the early 30s when I was running the club. It was like, it was me and like 7 or 8 other dudes across the country that were full-time
yeah,
club coaches and based our living. Now it's everywhere, right? Like there are kids
everywhere.
coming out of college. There's kids coming out of college that are making a pretty daggone good living just coaching wrestling, and that's pretty cool. Like there is an upside to all this. There is an upside, right? But at a certain point, we got to go. Ooh, let's not mortgage the future, huh?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a double-edged sword because you want to see people leave this, get out of college and be able to make a living in the sport. You didn't used to be able to make a living in the sport unless, there's some college coaches that did, right?
Right.
But now you can make a living in the sport, which is awesome. But it also, what's that then do to future generations? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's tricky. All right. So back to the recruiting process. If if you see a kid that really loves to compete, maybe doesn't have the same opportunities as other kids to compete at a high level on a quarterly basis, let's say, um, what are some red flags? Like, what do you go, and it can't just be the culture thing, right? Because you haven't even brought them on campus, right?
Mhm.
So I'm talking about when you're first talking to a kid, what are some of your red flags that you go, I don't know if this is going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways to answer that, but I think one of the ones that I get a lot, or two of the ones that come to mind are one is when they're just like, yeah, I'm burnt out, I want to take a break. Like when I was like, I don't know, when I hear those words, I think, man, I can't relate to this kid because I've never felt burnt out from wrestling. Like I've felt like my body's beat up, I need to rest, but like you don't love going in the room, like that's the best part of the day, right? Like other than the wife and kids. Like you don't love going in the wrestling room, you don't love to go in and train, you don't love to drill, you don't love to like I get everybody has certain things they don't like to do. Um, and some people like, don't love to drill, but they really like to
Mhm.
wrestle and do technique and
Sure,
whatever, that's fine. But
sure.
kids are just like, yeah, I think planned times off are really important. But I think, sometimes when kids are just like, yeah, I'm burnt out, I'm taking off the summer, or I'm not competing because I'm burnt out. And I'm like, and so I try to drill down on them. Like, so what do you mean by that?
Mhm.
Like, and sometimes they're like, well, my knee's banged up, it keeps swelling up. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like your body hurts. Well, that makes sense. Like you need to take time
Sure.
off then, right? Like,
Yeah,
but if they're just like, yeah, I'm fried mentally, like I just, my dad's been pushing me or whatever. I'm like, well, there's some red flags there, like if you're just burnt out from wrestling and and some kids wrestle crazy schedules, which it's like, well, all right, you've wrestled 100 matches and 50 of them were kids that are probably like nationally ranked kind of level kids, right? Like, all right, maybe you need a break just to mentally refresh. But when they're like, yeah, I'm burnt out, or my I get the like my dad's making me do this or whatever. I like the kids that are like, yeah, I'm begging my parents to go to this tournament. Like we got a kid in this common class that's always like, yeah, I'm trying to go to this tournament. I'm trying to talk my parents into it. I really want to go here. And I'm like, I like that. It's not. It's the opposite. It's the I'm pushing for it. I want it, as opposed to getting pushed to do it.
yeah. Joel, you'll like this one. Um, Jack Bruno, my son, got to my right leg for the first time I can remember. He said he's gotten to it before. I think he's full of it, but he got to my right leg. Now he smells blood in the water. He smells blood in the water. This kid has been on me every day. He's like, you're gonna put your shoes on today? I'm like, hey, easy, take it easy. It's getting to the point now where it's like it's as soon as he wakes up, like he's like, you think you're gonna roll around today? I'm like, bro, relax. But I guess to your point, there's never been an instance where I'm like, yeah, well, you have to go to this, or you really should train today. There's never been one point ever. And if that translates to his success, great. But if here's where I think a lot of the parents go horribly wrong. They put together a schedule, and the schedule is so granite, it's so concrete that
Yeah.
there's no, like, what if he bangs up his knee? What if he's put in, like, what if it was deeper into these tournaments than you thought, and he's now got, you can wrestle 20 matches in Fargo. You can. Like, that's a full season, right?
Yeah.
If you wrestle both styles in a big bracket and you run through the back end of it, you could get 20 matches in pretty easily. So that's a full season's worth of wrestling in a week. There has to be some malleability in training and in scheduling some of these events. Do you ever talk to parents about, like, hey, I don't know if you understand. I hate when parents use the word we, like we have to make weight or we have to compete.
Yeah.
That drives
Yeah.
me out of my mind
Yeah.
because you ain't doing shit. It's like your son's making weight, your daughter's making weight. You ain't doing shit. Do you ever coach parents in that regard?
I try to avoid that situation if I can, just like, if because that's the red flag, right? Like that's one
Right.
of those flags that I'm like, I might want to tread lightly here because this might not be it, right? Like we have, the other one I was gonna say is kind of the another red flag is when the kids can't communicate, but the parents are constantly communicating with me. And I'm like, well, what's gonna happen when little Johnny's here and he can't have a
He's
conversation
got to
with
go
me,
talk
but
to,
you're
he has
calling
to go
me
talk to
every
his
day?
professor. Yeah.
Like,
Or he has to talk to a professor, or he has to deal with a
like
parking ticket, like
Like
anything.
maybe it's old school, but I'm calling the kids. I text them too and stuff. But like when I'm recruiting a kid, like I gotta have phone conversations with you because if I can't talk to you, how am I gonna coach you? If I can't communicate with you and you can't communicate back, how do I coach you? I can't. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know how to get through to you, you know? And there's a happy medium of like, parental involvement in the recruiting process, and it's important.
Sure.
But there comes a point where it's like, I call a kid and I'm talking to the kid and dad takes over the conversation and the kid doesn't say anything anymore. It's like, maybe I'll give it another chance. And that happens again. It's like, yeah, it's a lot, right? Like the kid has to be able to advocate for himself. He has to be able to communicate for himself. Like at some point, we got to build a relationship. Like, yeah, I want to build a relationship with parents too, but like my job is to build a relationship with the kid. Like my job is as a coach, take them from
Right.
one point to another, right? And that's like the definition of a coach. And I
Yeah.
got to be able to have a relationship with a kid to do that. If I don't have a relationship, I can't coach a kid, not effectively.
No,
Um, so I think
no,
that's such a big piece of it too. But yeah, the parent.
dude. Dude, here's the thing though. The only other coach we've ever had say that as their red flag was Chewy. Chris Chianoma, who's over at Cal Poly now, who I think does an incredible job
Yeah, Chewy's
of
awesome.
he's the best, dude. Like he's one of the best at finding those, you want to say diamonds in the rough, right? Because it's a similar situation at Cal Poly. They don't have all the money in the world. If they miss on a kid, it's a big deal. Like it's like, golly, we are strapped for the next half a decade. Like, but so they can't miss. And when you start putting these little puzzle pieces together to form the big picture, um, that those little puzzle pieces, like not advocating for yourself, thinking that you're burnt out from the sport because you just don't, what that means is you really don't like the sport that much. That's what it
And,
means to me, right? I mean,
and
that's you
you're going
just
to
don't.
increase your training in college, right? Like you're going to do more than you're
Yeah,
doing now, most likely.
100%.
I think so.
Yeah, 100%.
And
Well,
definitely
there's
at more intense level, right? Like it's going to get harder,
absolutely,
not easier.
and you don't like it now, so big red flag. All these little things give such a clear picture as to like what like what these kids really are. And I think one of the things that you and Chris and some of the other really good assistants and recruiters around the country are doing is like having a bar, and it's consistent, and it's not just wrestling. It's not just wrestling. It's a personality type. It's a certain mentality, right? So I think if you could put some names or some words to that bar, what would they be?
That's a great question.
Yeah, looks like I'm good at this.
I mean, at the end of the day, they got to love the training aspect because in college, it seems less and less all the time. I mean, you got to have 15 matches for RPI. Like, that's nothing. Some of these kids are
Right.
wrestling, like you said, 20 matches in a weekend. Like, you don't compete that much in college. I don't know if anybody hit 50 matches last year in college, right? Like, 30 is kind of the number you're kind of looking at getting, if you wrestle all year,
In the
right?
final,
And you
and
don't have
26, 20, 24 before you get to the tournament.
yes, yeah. If you don't have injuries and you wrestle a whole year and you're
Yeah,
like winning,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're looking at 30 matches. So,
Uh-huh.
30 matches as opposed to training for 365 days a year. I mean, you got to love the actual training side of it. I think that is so important. And you got to have goals, Something that surprised me with some kids is like a lot of times I'll be like, what are your goals for the rest of high school? What are your goals for college? And some kids are like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you don't have any goals? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Or it's like,
Yeah,
sometimes it's like, well, these are my high school goals. I don't know about college yet. Like, I don't know that
that's
level.
fair. That's fair.
That
That's
totally
fair.
makes sense to me, right? And
Yeah,
sometimes kids are like, yeah, I have no goals. I just want to win a national title in college. And I'm like, are you telling me that because you think I want to hear that? Because I,
yeah.
I I don't know if that's genuine, right? Like,
Mm,
um, but yeah, I think you got to absolutely love the training side of it, right?
mm,
And seeing kids in a practice or being able to work out with a kid, that kind of thing, you can actually kind of tell if they love it or not, right? Like, and it's you can get fooled in one practice, you can get fooled in one
sure.
competition. When you see kids multiple times that just love it, it's like that was the great thing to me about like the Fargo stuff, right? Like the training camp, and then you go to Fargo, like all the college coaches do, all the teams and stuff, right? My favorite part of the whole thing was I'd go to Team PA. I was with them for a week at camp, and I got to watch them two times a day for a week. And I'm like, well, you can fool me one practice for sure. You can go out and wrestle hard, beat somebody, whatever. But you can't
Mhm.
fool me 4 days into a camp of like, you don't want to be here. Like I can tell. And
Yeah.
that was one of the things. So Evan Maggs, our 165 pounder, won a conference title for us. Not this year, the previous year. He got hurt at the conference this year, but he was nationally ranked and he's one of our best kids. And he's a kid that, hadn't really done a whole lot in high school, placed fifth as a senior. But at Fargo camp, I was like, man, I love this kid. He's not very good right now, but I love him. He works so hard. He is so into it. He is so excited to come to practice, and he's staying after every day, like not in front of anybody. He's doing his own thing. But I was like,
Yeah,
that was one of those kids that like if I didn't go to that Fargo camp, I don't know if he'd be here right now because I wouldn't have known that like this is a kid I got to get. And that was that
sure.
like I love it and I'm willing to make sacrifices for it, right? That's another word I'd put on there, sacrifice. Like, we all want to win, but are you willing to make sacrifices to win, right? Like, are you willing to do the hard things? Are you willing to give up certain things? Like you got to give up some stuff to win. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give up time away from home and the girlfriend and mom and dad and be here all summer and train with
Pasta.
like
Yeah, anything. Pizza, pasta. Are you ready?
yeah,
Are you ready to give up pizza? Like,
yeah,
and the answer a lot of times is no.
no,
Right?
no,
Like
definitely not. Yeah,
it's just no. I mean, it's just not right. Like it's just the answer more times than not when you ask them those hard questions. It's and I love when you're I love that you're granular about it. Are you willing to give up your girlfriend for a weekend to go compete,
mhm.
or is her whatever her junior prom that important to? Like these are sacrifices, right?
Oh yeah,
Like when you become specific and exact about this stuff, I've found it's easy to ask a kid if he's willing to sacrifice to win. Just that blanket statement. The answer is going to be yes, because he's putting on a show for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you go, are you willing to not eat pizza tonight? Even though the rest of your family is. Last night, my son, like my whole family comes over on Sundays and we do pasta, and it's a big guinea thing. I get it. But he took the sauce, put it in a frying pan, cracked an egg in it. Quietly, didn't say a word to his mother because his mother's going to try and feed him pasta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but he cracked an egg in it and he went off by himself and he ate in the garage by himself, sitting on a surfboard. Poor bastard. Kind of feel okay. Maybe I'm the one that has the problem. Okay, fine. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and this isn't like a recruiting pitch for my son. I'm just like, there are a lot of kids that would probably just eat the pie. You know,
Yeah.
me included. You know, I shouldn't, put myself out of that ring. All right, Joel Shaw, what do you got? Anything before we get to our sprint?
I was gonna say one more thing real quick too.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sorry. Sorry.
some kids like hate lifting weights. Some kids hate running.
Yeah.
Most like
Yeah.
if you're in wrestling, you should really like to do technique and wrestle and drill and stuff. But like,
Sure.
are you willing to still lift on your own in high school, even though you hate it because like you need to? Like that's a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Like some guys really freaking hate running. That's something I found out over the years. And
Oh
like,
yeah.
but some of the guys do it because they know it's a necessary evil, right? Right? Like that's one of those things where it's like, you try to evaluate that. It's like, oh, I'm always like, oh, what's your training regimen look like? Like, what are you doing right now? And they're all
Mhm.
like, oh, I do these practices, these places, whatever. I'm like, oh, you doing anything else? Like, are you running? Are you lifting? Are you doing any of those kind of things? Like, because you can always control
Mhm.
those things, right? Like,
Sure.
some kids are just like,
Those
yeah,
are the easy ones
I
to
don't like to
control.
lift.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
okay, all right, so you don't lift at all? And they're like, nah, I don't really like it. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I don't like lifting either. But in my head, I'm like, well, if you want to be
Do it.
good, you will, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but you're choosing not to.
100%. Yeah. No, 100%. And in fact, if the last 20 minutes, half hour was a recruiting pitch for my son, this will be the anti, because getting him to strength train is really difficult. Really,
Yeah.
really difficult. It's like pulling teeth, and it's just not something that he prioritizes right now. And I'm trying to explain to him, and I kind of equate it to school. Like, I know you don't like math, but you kind of got to be good at it. Like, it's kind of important. Like, I know you can't neglect that class. Well, it's the same thing with lifting. Like, you kind of have to do it. Like, not in 2025, you're not achieving the goals that you'd like by not lifting at all. Like, strength train in some way, right?
You
You
can do
have to do it.
something. You
Yeah.
can't not do anything, right? Like,
Right. Right.
that's a pet peeve too. When people are like, yeah, I didn't work out at all before this tournament. I didn't do anything. I'm just like, all
Right.
right, sure you didn't.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. When it's cold.
doesn't mean you got to be 6 hours a day, every day in the weight
No.
room. Like you can do a 20-minute circuit. You can do
Yeah.
push-ups and pull-ups and some freaking dumbbell stuff. Like you can do
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we meet in the middle, right? Like, it's all right. So he's found a lot of success with cold plunges, right? So like Joel and him and John, all these guys are getting in. So I got a cold plunge in the garage. So the only time he lifts is right after he gets out of the cold plunge. So he'll sit in there for a minute and a half or 2 minutes or whatever it is, and they'll get up with a 70-pound kettlebell and swing the shit out of it. And so that's his lifting. But getting him to do it is not been easy.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, let's get to our sprint here. Don't think too much about these questions. Just fire away, Bees.
All
What
right.
is the greatest wrestling shoe of all time?
I'm not a shoe guy.
You're
I
gonna have to
like
answer them.
and with the what were the ones? They're like the Sydney 2000 or something. They had the zipper,
Ooh,
the
yeah,
yellow fold over. I like those. I'm not a shoe
those are
guy.
cool. Okay, fair enough. No, I like those. Were those
Blue
Adidas?
and yellow. Blue and
Yeah.
yellow. I'm an Adidas guy. But
Okay. Yeah, me too.
I'm not a big shoe guy.
Fair enough. All right. All this stuff that we talked about, like the mentality of identifying athletes, the even the fundraising. Is there one book that you could recommend to a younger coach that would kind of fast track them to the point where you're at right now?
And I don't think so. I think
Nope, gotta do it. Sorry. You're me.
uh, and I there's a lot of good books out there. I don't know if there's one that's on fast track. Yeah.
Or at least give you some insight into what it's like.
And I think any book on business, because that's where, at least for me, that I felt like I struggled was the business side.
Mhm.
A bunch of business books that I think I learned so much more of that because like I had no background in that, right? Like that was super helpful to me of putting systems in place, stuff like that. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, I
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. All right. We'll let you off the hook on that one. All right. You only get four. They got to be American. Who is
yeah.
on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Four. And well, is there any qualifiers? Does this include coaching and competition, just competing?
But so we always like to say impact on the sport, right?
Okay.
Like Cable only won one Olympic gold medal only. He's got one more than me, but whatever. The point
Only
is
one more
his
than you,
impact
though.
just one.
Yeah.
Oh, you get it. See, some people get it. But his impact on the sport was huge, right? So, and I don't want to sway your vote or anyway, but
Well,
just
I
overall
gotta
impact.
say, I'm a certain generation, so I'm gonna have all people from my generation that I watched or grew up,
Sure.
whatever. Um, I don't have a great historic reference of the long time ago ones, but obviously you got to go with Kale and Gable. Those two are easy staples. I think Baumgardner has
Mm.
got to be up there as well. Yeah, I think my first ever like little like research thing was on Bruce Baumgartner being a four-time Olympic medalist or whatever. Um, I think those have got to be the first three. After that, it gets really tough for me to figure out
It
who.
always is. Number four is tough.
Um, Number four, I'm gonna say I only get four. Ooh. Uh, there were two guys who were like my idols when I was growing up. I'm gonna give you both of them, but Kenny Monday
Okay.
and
Uh-huh.
Kurt Angle, and I those were like my two biggest idols growing up. And yeah,
Okay.
so
All right, but you only got to put one on the list though.
yeah, I'll go with Kenny.
All right. Kenny
But then how
Monday.
do I put
I
him
like
on there and
I just
not John? How do I not put John on there?
I don't know. That's
See,
your
I screwed
list.
up. Now I gotta reevaluate because John's got to go before either of those guys. But impact to me personally was more of those
Yeah,
guys
that's all that
because
matters.
those were my idols.
Yeah, so but that's kind of what we're getting at, right? Like
Yeah,
we're trying to find people's idols in the sport. Who are the
yeah,
icons to? And look, it might change graphically, it might change, demographically, it might change whatever, right? Like it changes, but it's important. We do keep a running toll, right? Like how many times has Kenny been on the list, Joel?
That was the seventh vote for Kenny.
Okay. All right. And we just had him on the
a
podcast not too
lot.
long ago. No, it is actually. It is. I mean, I think John has like the most with like 21 or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
John Smith's leading the way with 66. Then we
Oh,
got
I
Jordan
was
Burroughs with 60, Cale Sanderson 46, Dan Gable 36. And your boy Bruce Baumgartner right behind them at 21.
Yeah.
okay.
See, growing up,
Yeah.
born in the '80s, so Bumgarner was wrestling, Angle was
Oh
wrestling,
yeah.
Monday was wrestling. Obviously
Sure.
Sanderson
Yeah.
and Gable was the legend and went to his camps as a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. That's no, for sure. You can't discredit anything that dude's done. All right. Last one. You get a magic wand. You get to change one thing about the sport of wrestling and it changes immediately. What would it be?
Every college program would be endowed for wrestling and
Mm.
not go anywhere at all levels.
Mm. So we just wouldn't be able. You couldn't get rid of us if you
Gonna get rid of
tried.
any college programs.
Couldn't get rid of us if you tried. We're like the cockroaches of college sports.
But if I had to choose a second one, I'd be able to
Yeah.
stop a double leg because I have never figured that out yet. So
Good luck with that. Coach Beasley, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us some of your time, brother.
Yeah, great being with you guys.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.